Alright, this is GRE Verbal, and the passage that we have to discuss is this one. The passage has been, it's an excerpt from an article that was published in 1982. So the passage says, and it's about warm-blooded animals, that warm-blooded animals have elaborate physiological controls to maintain constant body temperatures in humans, which is 37 degrees centigrade. Why then, during sickness, should temperature rise? Apparently, increasing stress on the infected organism. So that's a question, right? Why the temperature is increasing if they already have a constant body temperature. It has long been known for that the level of serum iron in animals falls during infection. Garibaldi first suggested a relationship between fever and iron. He found, it was his founding, that microbial synthesis of siderophores, which are the substances that bind iron, and bacteria for the genus Salmonella, declined at environmental temperatures, which is above 37 degrees centigrade, and stopped at 40.3 degrees centigrade. So this is thus fever would make it more difficult for an infected bacterium to acquire iron and thus to multiply. So this is what basically is happening to iron in such a condition. Cold-blooded animals were used, right? We were not using warm-blooded animals. In fact, we were using cold-blooded animals to test this hypothesis because their body temperatures can be controlled, which means that for warm-blooded animals, the body temperatures cannot be controlled in the laboratory. Kluger reported that of iguanas infected with the potentially lethal bacterium, which is ahydrophilia, more survived at temperatures of 42 degrees centigrade than at 37 degrees centigrade, even though healthy animals prefer the lower temperature. When animals at 42 degrees centigrade were injected with an iron solution, however, mortality rates increased significantly. Research to determine whether similar phenomena occur in warm-blooded animals is sorely needed, right? So this is a requirement, this is a need. The passage is primarily concerned with attempts to determine, right? So what actually is the primary purpose of the passage to determine, exactly what? So because it says, it's morely about the warm-blooded animals and how the function of fever happens. So we'll select C, the function of fever in warm-blooded animals, right? That's the main concern of the entire passage. Okay, the role of siderophores in the synthesis of serum iron, it does include that, but it's not the primary purpose. New treatments for infections that are caused by ahydrophilia, not at all. The mechanisms that ensure a constant body temperature, no. It was mentioned but not the primary purpose. Iron utilization in cold-blooded animals, no. So C is the right answer. Okay, the second question is, according to the passage, Garibaldi determined which of the following. So we'll move on to the thing that says that it was Garibaldi's founding. We'll move on to that. You can see here we have also highlighted the word found. This Garibaldi first suggested a relationship between fever and iron. He found that microbial synthesis of siderophores, which are the substances that bind iron, in bacterium of the genus Salmonella declined at environmental temperatures. So it's basically a relationship between Salmonella and the temperatures, right? We'll look for an option that gives us that, or which is very close to that. So the serum iron is produced through microbial synthesis, no. That microbial synthesis of siderophores in warm-blooded animals is more efficient at higher temperatures, no. That only iron bound to other substances can be used by bacteria, no. That there is a relationship between the synthesis of siderophores in bacteria of the genus Salmonella and the environmental temperatures. This is exactly what we wanted. So this is the answer, and the last is the bacteria of the genus Salmonella require iron as a nutrient. So that was not Garibaldi's founding, right? We were looking for what he figured out. Okay. The third question is, which of the following can be inferred about warm-blooded animals solely on the basis of information in the passage? So we do not have to use any other information regarding the warm-blooded animals. All we have to, infer is by using the information that is given in the passage. And we can see here that it's mentioned that because the temperature of warm-blooded animals cannot be controlled, right? So we were using cold-blooded animals whose temperature can be controlled in the laboratory. So we can infer that the warm-blooded animals do not have a controlled temperature, or their temperatures cannot be controlled in the laboratory, right? So the body temperature of warm-blooded animals cannot be easily controlled in the laboratory. This is the right answer. We'll go through other ones as well. Warm-blooded animals require more iron in periods of stress than they do at other times. Warm-blooded animals are more comfortable at an environmental temperature of 37 degrees centigrade than they are at a temperature of 42 degrees centigrade. No, we cannot infer that solely on the basis of information that is given in the passage. In warm-blooded animals, bacteria are responsible for production of siderophores. No. In warm-blooded animals, infections that lead to fever are usually traceable to bacteria. No. So A is the answer. Okay, we have the last question. If it were to be determined that similar phenomena occur in warm-blooded animals, this is something that was given in the last lines of the passage. Which of the following, assuming each is possible, you have to assume that all of the given options are possible, is likely to be most effective, right, for warm-blooded animals with bacterial infections? So we are looking for something that is supposed to be the effective treatment for warm-blooded animals which are having, or which will have, bacterial infections. So administering a medication that lowers the body temperature, injecting the animals with an iron solution, okay, administering a medication that makes serum iron unavailable to bacteria. So if the bacteria will be, the iron will be unavailable to bacteria, nothing of that sort will happen that the entire passage talks about, right? This is a very good option. Providing the animals with reduced iron diets, keeping the animals in an environment with temperatures higher than 37 degrees centigrade. So the most effective of all would be the C, administering a medication that makes serum iron unavailable to bacteria. So in this case, we have 4 questions for a passage that was based on one single paragraph, and we have attempted all 4 of them.